Welcome to what promises to be a very, very interesting discussion about the future of work with Colby Harder, Jacob Pat, and Mark Adams. My name is Daniel Perrett, and I work here at Forte Designers, and I'm very happy that you are joining us today. So at this point, I'll pass the mic over to Colby, and I'll let you do some intros.
Great. Thanks, Daniel, and good morning, everyone. Colby Harder here from Forte Technical Designers. I'll just give you a quick introduction to myself and what we do. So I'm a business consultant focused on helping customers and clients prepare for and embrace the future of work, and that kind of falls into a few categories. We spend a lot of time with business leaders focusing around strategy and leadership. We spend a lot of time talking about human factors of what helps distributed and remote teams become more productive. And then, of course, we have a whole practice around the technology design and consulting that helps teams communicate more securely and more effectively in a distributed environment. I'm super excited this morning to have two of my good friends on the call. Jacob Pat started out as a client of mine when he was the CIO at Champion Petfoods, and we've become quite good friends. He's a really innovative thinker, currently based out of Toronto, but you seem to be going in a lot of directions. So why don't you quickly introduce yourself, Jacob? Tell us what you're doing these days, and then I'll give Mark an intro here in a short second.
Awesome. Hi, Colby. Thank you for the kind words. Hi, everyone. My name is Jacob Pat. I've spent over 2 decades in the technology space, hence the lost hair. I'm a former CIO. I focus on multiple verticals, most recently spent a lot of time in retail and manufacturing. My passion really is to why I do this is to help solve business problems at scale, and I just happen to use technology to do it. I'm currently an executive at PredictSpring, an organization based out of Mountain View, California, and we focus in the modern point of sale space, helping retailers reimagine what the in-store journey looks like.
Great. Awesome to have you. Mark and I have known each other since we were teenagers, and we've reconnected in recent years. He recently took a position at SNC-Lavalin and has been a mining engineer for most of his career. So Mark, give us a quick overview. Tell us what you're all about, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Colby. Thanks for having me, and welcome to everyone. Thanks for joining. My name's Mark Adams. I'm an engineer by education, but currently work as Vice President Studies and Technology for SNC-Lavalin's Global Mining Group. I'm based in Vancouver. Have a kind of a varied experience in the mining industry over the last 15 years, having worked in operations, technology, research and development, and the latter part of my career has actually been mostly on business development and strategy. Had some very unique opportunities, especially over the last 18 months. I'd only recently joined SNC about 4 months ago now, but have been supervising some fairly large teams located all over the world, and it's been really eye-opening. And I think a lot of us have seen those same kind of things. But I'm very passionate about people and about developing people and about making sure that everyone has all the roadblocks out of their way to do their best in work. And I think that really aligns with the future work that we're talking to today. So I'm really happy to be here and share my thoughts and also hear from Colby and Jacob.
Great, thanks for joining. So I'm the lucky guy because I got two really smart friends here who have agreed to be my guinea pigs today and be peppered with my questions. For those of you who haven't been on one of these sessions before, what we aim to do is have really a panel dialogue around various subjects. And I've got about 9 subjects and topics that we'll just discuss generally today. We're going to talk about the challenges that we've experienced through COVID and distributed work. We're going to talk about the opportunities that have presented themselves. We're going to talk about corporate culture. We're going to talk about talent, attracting and retaining people. We're going to talk about the future of the workplace. What does the physical office mean in the future, and what do we need it to do for us? We're obviously going to talk about some technology and how humans interact with that technology. And we're going to talk about, and I think this is really important, some of the leadership and management tools that we should be bringing into our organizations to help distributed teams run more effectively. And then finally, in our pre-call briefing this morning, we decided that it's really important to talk about some environmental impacts of this whole situation and how we can use that to a benefit for all of us. So with that in mind, why don't we start by talking a little bit about the challenges that we've faced in the last year. I mean, what a crazy time the last year and a half has been. It's, in my 20 years in business, there was never a time where we ever planned for this or thought this would happen. And many times throughout this whole pandemic, I wasn't even sure it was real. It was kind of unbelievable. And I'm sure if many people on the call today are like me, we've been on a roller coaster ride where we were in disbelief, and then we were in lockdown mode, and then we were thinking it was getting better, and then we kind of repeated that cycle over 2 or 3 times. And Jacob, why don't you start us off? Like, what are some of the challenges that you've experienced and seen in your travels in the last year? And let's just have a dialogue about this challenges.
Yeah, I think, Colby, I mean, as you know, when people ask me where I'm from, my answer is on a plane. And I mean, having traveled as much as I do, a lot of it comes back to working with high growth organizations. So organizations going through a lot of change and expanding. And one of the items there that's posed a significant challenge is the concept of a relationship, right? So when you're growing these teams, growing these businesses, you're constantly onboarding new people, whether it be satellite offices or just existing cities. And when you have to do all of that remotely, and when people are trying to figure out what remote is, it becomes a significant challenge. It removes that whole DNA of, that initial chemistry that you have as you get to know somebody. Oh, that's a human on the other side. So it's opened up a very different kind of dialogue, even in the work environment, where you've got, people that just, I've met you on Zoom. I only know you from Zoom. And until they actually meet you for the very first time, that relationship doesn't exist. That trust doesn't exist. And, it takes time over Zoom. It's not that it can't be done. It just takes a lot of time. And unless organizations are finding ways to compensate for that, which is, having meetings, icebreakers, creating vulnerability moments online, it doesn't work very well. So it's an interesting thing on how to build trust in employee relations in a world where we're constantly like this in front of a screen, as opposed to, sitting on a stage or interacting with people.
Jacob, great points there. I think back to your and my relationship and the fact that we really did quite a bit of business together when you're at Champion Petfoods. And I don't think we met until we actually had completed all that business. We did most of it remotely. But what I remarked about that whole experience is you and I got to know each other quite well through phone calls and Zoom calls, even pre-COVID. And then when we did meet in person, it seemed to me like there was an instant comfort and trust level that already existed. And then both of us have been thrown into COVID. I feel like our relationship has strengthened in the last year because you were in Toronto, I was in Vancouver. We probably wouldn't see each other, but now we see each other. It's fun. Mark, same question for you. Talk about challenges. What have you seen?
Yeah, I think for me, Colby, the biggest challenge or even learning was just around leadership. And I know we're going to talk about that a little more later, but around having empathy for those people around you, not only your direct reports, but your colleagues, and even, upward to your own management and that sort of thing. Really, I think before, we, I liked what Jacob said about, building those relationships and those sort of things. But I think we almost, in many cases, were able to get to a deeper level together during this kind of crisis together, where we had to think of things about others that maybe we wouldn't think about. What are they going through at home? Do they have an ill relative or a friend? Do they have their kids that are out of school? Did they lose their job? All those kind of things that we sort of had the opportunity to really dig a bit deeper into what our family and colleagues and friends were up to. And I think from a work perspective, I think that was a really important thing to do. I think one of the most important things managers have done this year is making sure that their people feel safe and can alleviate as much stress as possible and just listen to what their problems are and do their best. Really, like I said in the intro, I mean, it's about getting rid of those barriers for our people. And, I think that's a big takeaway that I've come out of COVID with, or coming out of COVID with, that I think we just need to apply more generally. But I think that's been a big challenge for a lot of people to kind of learn that new skill of empathy and really digging a bit deeper on the people around you.
Yeah. I did an interview with a colleague of mine that I've known for years, and it's funny you mentioned about building sometimes closer relationships. And this guy and I have known each other for 20 years. He was a supplier of ours. We always had what I would really call a transactional relationship. He would come to the office, we'd talk about some products he had, and then we started having these video calls, and all of a sudden we're talking about his family and his home office, talking about his jiu-jitsu training, and we really got to know each other. And I did an interview with him. His name's Ed Choi. I did an interview with him about, he's worked from home for a long time, so I thought he might have insights about being a more productive home-based worker. And one of the things that he said is, you just need to own it. You just need to lean into it. And once he started treating working from home, in his case, as a lifestyle, everything he did was about becoming better at being a remote worker. And I think if we apply that to what Mark just said, and I think we all need to rise to the challenge to say, video calls and distributed work is going to be a reality for many of us, for most of us. So are we going to choose to lean into it and be really good at it, or are we going to choose to lean back and hope that we get carried along on the ride? Let's talk about opportunity. Mark, I'll go back to you for this one. You in our pre-briefing call, you were talking about some projects that went really well. I mean, that sounds like a great opportunity. Tell everyone a little bit more about that and what you've seen.